The morning light filtered through the pale curtains, spilling golden streaks across the edges of the bed where Julie sat quietly, her robe draped loosely over her shoulders. The silence in the room was almost delicate, broken only by the steady rhythm of their breaths. She adjusted her glasses slightly, eyes lingering on Ricky, who sat close to her, his bare chest rising and falling with an unsteady calmness that mirrored the unspoken emotions between them. They had been dancing around this moment for weeks, months even. The late-night conversations that stretched until dawn, the accidental brushes of fingers when passing coffee cups, the soft smiles across the table that lasted too long. Every detail had been a slow build-up. Now, with the morning sun catching the curve of her hair and the quiet intensity of his gaze locked on hers, the world felt suspended. "Julie," he said softly, his voice rough from sleep, but weighted with meaning. Her heart stuttered in her chest. She had heard her name countless times from his lips before, but today it felt different, like a promise wrapped inside a plea. She looked at his hand resting over hers, the warmth of his skin seeping through, grounding her, yet sending waves of heat rushing through her. "I don't know how to keep pretending anymore," he continued, his thumb brushing lightly over her knuckles. "I've tried to fight it. I've tried to convince myself that this is just friendship, comfort, habit, but it isn't, not for me." Her lips parted, but no words came. Inside her, a storm raged, 1,000 reasons why they shouldn't cross this invisible line, why it was safer to keep things unspoken. And yet, beneath all of it, there was the undeniable pull toward him, the aching truth she had buried too deeply for too long. "Ricky," she whispered, her voice trembling, not with fear, but with the weight of everything she had wanted to say. His hand slid gently up her arm, pausing just above her elbow. His touch was hesitant, reverent, as if she were something fragile he feared might break. But she wasn't breaking, she was melting, unraveling under the intensity of his presence. "You don't have to say anything," he murmured, leaning closer, his forehead nearly brushing hers. "Just let me know I'm not alone in this." Her eyes searched his, finding a reflection of her own turmoil there. The softness of his gaze, the unguarded vulnerability, etched into his expression. It stripped away the last of her defenses. She lifted her hand, cupping the side of his face, her fingers tracing the line of his jaw. "You're not alone," she breathed, and in that instant, something inside her finally surrendered. The air between them shifted, thick with anticipation. His lips hovered just above hers, his breath mingling with her own. It was a kiss not yet taken, a promise trembling on the edge. When his mouth finally found hers, it was both gentle and desperate, as if he had been holding back a flood for far too long. Her hands slid into his hair, pulling him closer. The kiss deepened, slow at first, savoring, then urgent, hungry. Every suppressed emotion, every sleepless night spent yearning, poured into that moment. His arms wrapped around her, pulling her against him, and she felt the strength of his heartbeat against her chest, rapid and unsteady like her own. Time blurred. The world outside ceased to exist. There was only the heat of his touch, the taste of his lips, the soft sound of his breath against her ear when they finally broke apart. Gasping, their foreheads pressed together. "I've wanted this for so long," he admitted, his voice hushed, as though speaking too loudly might shatter the fragile reality they had created. "Me too," she confessed, her cheeks flushed, eyes glistening with emotion. "I was just afraid." His thumb brushed away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. "You don't ever have to be afraid with me." They sat in silence for a long moment, wrapped in the fragile intimacy of their confession. Then, with a soft smile tugging at his lips, he leaned back slightly, taking in the sight of her. She was radiant in her vulnerability, beautiful in a way that stole the breath from his lungs. Julie lowered her gaze shyly, adjusting the tie of her robe, though it slipped again, revealing more of her skin. Ricky's eyes lingered on her, but not with hunger alone, with awe, reverence, and the kind of love that was patient, tender, enduring. "Tell me this is real," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "It's the only real thing I've ever known," he said without hesitation. Her chest tightened with emotion. For so long she had guarded herself, terrified of giving her heart away, terrified of what it might mean to be seen so completely. But here, with Ricky, she felt safe. She felt cherished. As the morning stretched into afternoon, they lay side by side on the bed, their hands entwined, their voices weaving stories of dreams and fears, of futures they had once only imagined in secret. Each kiss, each shared laugh, each lingering touch stitched them closer together, erasing the boundaries that had once held them apart. There was no rush, no urgency to claim more than what the moment offered. Their intimacy unfolded like a delicate symphony, sometimes soft and slow, sometimes wild and consuming. but always in harmony. Every glance was a confession, every touch was a vow. When the sunlight finally began to fade, painting the walls in hues of amber and rose, Ricky pulled her closer, his lips brushing her temple. "I don't want this to end," he whispered. "It doesn't have to," she replied, her smile tender, her heart certain at last. And in that quiet promise, as the day gave way to night, two souls found a home in each other where fear no longer lived, where love reigned without apology, and where every tomorrow would be written together. Their story had only just begun, but already it was infinite.